Hey everybody, welcome to the College Football Insiders. Is it week 7? Week 7. It's a Thursday. We had football starting up on Wednesday this week. We've got football throughout the weekend as well. And of course, we're getting into the thick of things where we start seeing more midweek games. And of course, we start shaping up the college football playoff race. We'll talk a lot about those games that might shape what we see down the stretch as we enter the second half of the season, another week or two, but also we're going to get into what we're hearing on the ground at a lot of schools, including North Carolina and Chapel Bill, and the craziness that's going on there. It's just an absolute mess. In fact, we're going to start the show with our pressure index discussing Chapel Hill, Chapel Bill, and just the craziness that is going on there. A lot of rumors, reports, all kinds of stuff spreading across on social media. Richard, you've been all over it. You had a story actually on Thursday at cbssports.com. What can you tell us about just the wackiness that is going on there in Chapel Hill?
Well, Brandon, at this rate, I don't know if it's going to be Chapel too much longer as we get to November and December. I think there are a lot of people who would rather it end now. I think that what you saw yesterday, the rumors about attempts to try to, conversations about getting him out for cause, or trying to find something to get him out for cause, or, linking to the NCAA violation, the ticky-tacky NCAA violations that came out in the midweek, or, an assistant coach or two probably losing their job, or what have you. All of it strikes me as pointing back to the fact that there is not alignment at the top at North Carolina. And alignment is that magic buzzword that we all hear during college football searches. And I think it's typically a trope. It's typically an easy fallback, just like culture, which is a different story. But this is what happens when you don't have alignment. I'll give them this. This is the clear example of what no alignment looks like. When you've got a situation where Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director, did not want Bill Belichick, wanted multiple other options, younger options with more college football experience, and the Chancellor University, among others, high-powered on the university side at North Carolina, wanted Bill Belichick and got Bill Belichick in the job. Well, be careful what you wish for. Bill Belichick and his general manager, Mike Lombardi, are in the job running this football program and running it quite poorly. Had some defections post-spring of some of their better players, including one who went back to the place that they got him from, Ryan Brown in Purdue at quarterback, who's starting at Purdue now, and I don't think doing too badly. They probably like to have him over what they have in Max Johnson or Gio Lopez. But, 28-point loss against Clemson where they look completely uncompetitive, and a week again where we're having this conversation 7 weeks in about how long Bill Belichick is going to be in this job. And will Bill Belichick be a one and done? Yes, they put out a statement last night, which was a vote of confidence, I guess you can call it. I thought it was very interesting that in Bubba Cunningham's statement, it said that the university and the athletics department will be behind Bill Belichick, but not necessarily that Bubba Cunningham, will be behind Bill Belichick. Thought that was a little interesting. But at the end of the day, if we're putting out vote of confidence statements in week 7, what are we doing here? But on the other hand, if you want to try to get him out for cause, and I'm Bill Belichick or Bill Belichick's representatives, I'm going to need every cent of that $20 million that you owe me, by the way. I'm not doing you a solid or doing you a favor. Like, you owe me a certain amount of money. If you really want to get rid of me, pay it.
There's a statement. We're seeing it on the screen right now. One from Bill Belichick, one from Bubba Cunningham, who, is pretty much on his way out, as we all know himself. And in a situation where there's maybe a power struggle, so to speak, at North Carolina, as you said, Richard, this all just stems from the very beginning. This had bad roots from the beginning. You had big-time boosters, people on the board of trustees who said, hey, let us control who we end up hiring here. Bill Belichick's a great big name. Let's just bring him in here. We think he'll coach here and do well. The problem is you might be told you're the greatest of all time as a coach, whatever, but you can't come into college football and say, I know better than you, and also say, well, whoopsie, we screwed up. Maybe we didn't know as much as you did, but give us a mulligan here for a year. We've got things figured out now. Next year is when we're going to hit big. And by the way, you have Mike Lombardi sending out that letter to high-level boosters saying, well, now our plan is to bring in 40 freshmen in this upcoming class. So which is it? Is that going to, and so, I mean, if you do that, you're not going to be able, I wouldn't see in a realistic sense, be able to just all of a sudden hit it big by having a bunch of freshmen in your class. Now, what you're pretty much communicating to your boosters and your fan base is it's going to take some time. We're going to build this thing organically and develop these kids year over year over year. And how does that fit into the plan for Bill Belichick, just as far as the runway he has left on his career? This guy is 73 years old. He doesn't have much time in his coaching life. He's going to have to retire at some point. Just none of this has made sense from the beginning, guys.
And I think that that's sort of the whole thing, right? Is if you're selling right now, what we've heard from Michael Lombardi is that they're planning to bring in a big high school recruiting class to try to basically build a new foundation. Well, are they going to wait 4 years for these kids to ultimately be juniors and seniors, right? Like you're talking about 77, 78, like he'd be almost old enough to run for president if he did that. And so it's just a weird situation. And one that, again, when Bill Belichick first got the North Carolina job, it was reported that he signed a 3-year contract. Obviously, in college football, you don't sign 3-year contracts. You sign 5-year contracts because you want to know that a kid who's signing with you, that you're going to be there for 4 years. Well, I don't think that Bill Belichick realized that even publicly, that's what he needed to do. I think the plan was always, hey, 2 or 3 years, everybody will see how great I am, and then I'll get to go back to the NFL and prove it somewhere else. That's clearly not happening. First of all, there are no other opportunities available for him. And two, you're kind of locked into this situation where this guy who retired as the best coach in NFL history, well, not retired, was pushed out as the best coach in NFL history. And now all of a sudden, I mean, it's ironic that this is happening at North Carolina because this is way worse than a Michael Jordan Washington Wizards run. This is a huge stain, I think, on the end of his career.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I don't know many people in Chapel Hill, but I texted a couple of assistants over there and one got back with me and acted like everything was fine. Like everything's great. It's just we're losing. That's how it is. That's what happens when you're around a program that's losing. But the issues go deeper than that. It's just like one thing after another, drama after drama. And as we have said on the show before, guys, is that Bill Belichick is always proud of himself, took pride in, I should say, not having distractions around the program, right? And at North Carolina, it's been nothing but distractions, and it's been compounded by the losing and compounded really here going into this bye week. You've got the letter coming out. And that's the other thing. We haven't even really talked about Jordan Hudson this year. And that's the thing. Everybody's just assumed that was going to be taking the attention away. You know, they're not doing the Hulu documentary, which I think everybody wants to see now, but they've got out of that. It's just, again, it's mistake after mistake. And it just seems like whenever there's a mistake, they just try to bury it and go, it's fine. You didn't see this. Nothing to see here.
Well, first of all, Brandon, Jordan, your Auburn is showing. The other thing,
right?
the other thing here is that, like, when you stack up all the, like, let's just the last 10 days, all right? Just the last 10 days, or the last 2 weeks, let's call it. They go on the bye week. Their bye week before Clemson. Belichick goes to Nantucket with Jordan. Then the next day, the 29th, Mike Lombardi releases the 1,400 word letter, as you're saying. Shahan was talking about with all the stuff about we're going to bring 40 freshmen in.
1,400 words. Lombardi needs an editor, man.
He did need an editor. We have the letter posted up on CBSSports.com. And he talks about being a 76ers fan and but not tanking a la Sam Hinkie, which you can't do in college football. Anyway, weird. Then we go to...
Maybe they'll get the #1 draft pick next year. Maybe they get Faison Brandon.
Maybe. Then they go to, obviously, the Clemson game where they get absolutely smoked. Again, off a bye week, they lose to Clemson. Clemson scores 5 of the first 6 possessions, including a double pass on the first play of the game. They look uncompetitive. Fans are streaming for the exit. It's a terrible scene. Then you have the Hulu documentary, which came out. Then you have Bill Belichick's, by the way, that's the second documentary project that has been scuttled around North Carolina if you're playing along at home. If you're also playing along at home, Bill Belichick's personal animus towards the Kraft family and the New England Patriots has come back out because one of our former 247 employees, Ross Martin, used to work for Inside Carolina. He had the report that Drake May wasn't being posted by the UNC Twitter account because Drake May plays for the Patriots. And on Sunday night, May had a massive win over the Buffalo Bills. It took them 9 hours to post a highlight, and they only did that after Ross's tweet. So you've got all of those things stacking up. And then you have the deal that was Wednesday where the reports came out from Tar Heels 247 that there were talks about firing Bill for cause, or trying to find cause, I should say, to fire Bill, and all this sort of stuff. And there was a lot of throughout the day. You know, Matt's not on right now, but me and Matt were talking all day yesterday about how, like, are they going to do one staff change, or are they going to get rid of one assistant coach? It's just one thing after another, Brandon, with this UNC program here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that even the media at the games have gotten so covering the bad football. I saw this on social media, so forgive me for not giving credit who it was because I didn't see it, who it was. But 57 photos were uploaded to the kind of USA Today wire service.
Inside Carolina, I believe, who posted that.
And 24, I believe, of the 57 images that were up were Jordan Hudson from the game. It just, there's what else you got to take photos of?
Why not take players of their good players? Like, why not take pictures of them? Why not take pictures of all of the players doing great stuff? The thing that also kills me about all of this is that, again, I think that in college football in general, I think that there is something to be said for a developmental approach, but they didn't take that approach when they got to campus, and they are playing a lot of guys who are not young. In terms of on this roster, right? They're just playing players who are bad. So, like, if you want to start a youth movement, that's one thing. They haven't to this point. And if you're not going to do that, I don't really know what it is we're doing here. I honestly don't know. Like, if you sat down and tried to write, like, the worst possible coaching situation ever, I'm curious if you can, if Bill Belichick, if Bill Belichick, committed a crime, it would actually be easier because at least he could get out of his contract. Like, I can't think of a worse situation where you have this guy who's bought in as one of the highest paid coaches in the sport for 2 more years, who has clearly no future here. Like, what do you even do if you're North Carolina?
It's just a situation where, and there's been a few examples of it throughout history, but coaches that go into a situation they're not familiar with, but they've got gigantic egos and tell you what I do works no matter where I go. And another big program I think of this happening to was a few years ago with Brian Harsin, and that ballooned into something entirely beyond the ego and other issues going on behind the scenes.
But similar to this, Brendan, similar to this, you remember that February before he ended up getting fired, you have a trumped up social media campaign and they try to look for cause, and they did a full on school investigation that year, and they didn't find anything because there wasn't really anything there. And then they ran it back for one of the more miserable college football seasons that you'll ever have around Auburn.
Yeah. Jacksonville Jaguars fan Richard Johnson, can you think of any other situations that might be
Not
similar
at all.
to this?
Not at all. Liam Cohen to the moon, 4-1.
Well, at least their coach is not like Urban Meyer appearing on AEW wrestling events and skits and stuff. So we'll see what Bill Belichick does here in the future. We do know, though, that bye week will not defeat them. So they got that going for them.
Yeah,
they're losing right now. They're losing.
Yeah. Sources will need to confirm Sunday morning whether bye week beat them or not. We'll see.
Oh, man. Okay, we continue with the pressure index with actual football happening on the field this week. Number 8, Alabama, at number 14, Missouri. I did a story on this today at CBSSports.com, and doing the research this week, I couldn't believe it. It's been nearly 50 years since there's been a top 15 showdown in Columbia. That's insane. I mean, they've had some big upsets there. They knocked off number 1 Oklahoma there back in 2010. They've won a couple of SEC East Division titles there in 2 of their first 3 years there. But they haven't had a top 15 showdown among 2 teams there in a very long time. And in fact, if they were to beat Alabama this week there in Columbia, it'd be the first time they've beaten Alabama in 50 years, and arguably would be the biggest win in 50 years there in Columbia. Alabama was number 2, by the way, in that game in 1975. So I don't know what you guys think of the matchups here, but obviously I would say there's pressure on both sides, right? I mean, Kalen DeBoer, I mean, they've shown much more better football here the last few weeks, as we know, since losing to Florida State. Missouri, though, 5-0. Their schedule's not strong. It's 80th in strength of schedule so far. That's kind of how Mizzou's always started off hot, really throughout their tenure in the SEC. And this right here is an opportunity to finally show, hey, we can beat some of the top dogs in the SEC. They're 25-5 in the last 2 years plus, but those 5 losses have all come against that upper echelon: Alabama, LSU, Georgia. Can Missouri do it this week, guys? And will that take some pressure off Eli Drinkowitz, the coach, in pushing Mizzou finally into that upper tier they've been so close to trying to get into?
Yeah, do got to get over the hump. Brandon, you did great work on Ahmad Hardy and that story that you wrote on him. He's obviously one of college football's best running backs right now. I think Bo Prabula, excuse me, at quarterback for them is giving them enough of what they need. But as far as the 2 quarterbacks involved here, I think Ty Simpson's tremendous. You know, I just, with Alabama, you have got to get rid of the Florida State game. Yes, it is a thing that happened. It will be on their resume. We will talk about it in November when we talk about their college football playoff seeding. But at the end of the day, they're not that team. They are not. They are a lot better. They're getting, by the way, they beat this Missouri team. They shut this Missouri team out last year.
They brought their starters back in for a goal line stand near the end to keep it. It was great.
To preserve the shutout in Bryant Denny last year. So they got this Missouri team's number. As far as Bama's concerned, though, up front, they're going to have to deal with Damon Wilson and Zion Young, who are tremendous edge rusher tandem for Missouri. Those 2 guys can really play. They're really stout against the run. Caden Proctor had better bring his lunch pail at left tackle for them. I just don't necessarily think that Missouri has enough, especially if Bama gets that offense rolling with those wide receivers and they start throwing the ball over the park and they get out to a lead. I don't think Missouri has enough there to keep up.
Yeah, and it's an interesting matchup too, because you look at that game last year, right? Obviously, they get physically bullied. Missouri does in that game. I think that having a quarterback like Prabula, who obviously is very mobile, is a playmaker, it does change the calculus. And by the way, one thing that does help in a trench battle is when you got a guy like Ahmad Hardy, who is just able to make guys bounce off of him. Brandon, I'm sure you have the stat, like something like 2/3 of his yards are after contact, right?
Yeah.
Like it's crazy what he's been able to do.
If you look at the splits and everything, it's very comparable to what Ashton Ginty did last season at Boise State. It's almost haunting how close they are.
Pretty good, pretty good player. I think that for me, it's going to be a trench battle, but like you guys kind of are alluding to in a different way, right? It's going to be one. I don't think that Missouri's DBs can keep up with these Alabama receivers. Yeah. So can they get to the quarterback quick enough to prevent that from happening? I think that they're going to be able to do a decent job against run, although Jam Miller's return last week was a big deal. I think he finished with 121 yards in that win over Vanderbilt. But then it kind of goes the same the other way, right? This Alabama defensive line has been a little inconsistent, but certainly better with Tim Keenan back in the lineup. Is Missouri going to be able to work around an offensive line that in pass protect has been a little inconsistent, though they've been pretty good blocking for the run? Because again, like, for Missouri, like you gotta find a way to hold on to the ball, right? You gotta find a way to put together 11 play drives where you've got Bo Prabula and Ahmad Hardy just kind of keeping the chains moving. If they can't stay on the field, if they can't convert on 3rd down, like you can't give Alabama this many opportunities against your secondary. That's good, not great.
Yeah.
And so I think that ultimately that ends up proving to be the challenge in this game, and that's why I think that I pick Bama.
Yeah, a lot of playoff implications in this game, and I'll leave you guys with these type of numbers here. Mizzou leads the nation in time of possession. Alabama's +9 a turnover margin. Mizzou, though, rushing advantage, nearly a difference of 230 yards per game. Now, again, they haven't really played many people, but +230 in every game.
That's a lot of yards.
This is the big number to me. This is the one to circle that I've got highlighted on my notes. Alabama, when they're outrushed under Kalen DeBoer, is 4-5. All right. Nick Saban, even when they were outrushed, they were 31-15 under him, but they're just 4-5 under Kalen DeBoer when they're outrushed. That's something to keep an eye on here. But DeBoer, baby, he's got the 2nd best winning percentage all time against AP top 10 teams. I think of a minimum of 10 games played. We all know just how much of a big game coach he is. So a lot of just in crazy stats here, they're going to be put to the test and some trends here. I'll be there in Columbia. I can't wait to make the drive up there and see this one. That place is going to be rocking at noon on ABC. We're going to take a quick break here before we continue on with the Pressure Index with some more big-time games, including the Red River rivalry, right after this.
Only CBS Sports can bring you big time during the heart of Saturday afternoons. It's big time.
It's big time. It's big time. It's big time.
On CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back to the College Football Insiders. I am Brennan Marcello, joined by Shahan Jayaraja, Richard Johnson, and Matt Zenitz. It's the month of October. He's floating out there like a ghost somewhere. He might come back, maybe not, but he might pop on the screen and scare us all.
He just, I will say, Brandon, he did just break two big ones. Mac Jones likely to start at quarterback again this week for the 49ers. And I believe he also had something on Nakobe Dean coming off the PUP list. He's activated for the Eagles. So that's what Matt's doing while he's off the off screen.
So there you go. Breaking news. Big old Z-bombs from Matt Zenitz. That's him, man.
I like Z-bomb. We got to get a graphic made. Z-bomb is good. Z-bomb is
most
great.
definitely do. I do like Z-bomb.
Z-bomb's solid, and we don't have the other bombs anymore because Woj is off doing podcasts and GMing a basketball team now.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's move on. Number 6, Oklahoma against Texas, Red River rivalry, the Red River shootout. I know we can't say that anymore, but it's always been that when I was growing up.
Because of woke.
Yeah.
Right.
Texas, the favorite by 1.5, according to whatever books you want to look at, but that's what I saw last. I'm not a betting guy, but I would assume that's very rare to see a top 10 team being an underdog like that against an unranked team. The big question, of course, going into this one is John Mateer, Oklahoma's quarterback, is he going to be ready? Is he going to play after undergoing surgery on that broken bone in his hand? I haven't heard anything, but I'm sure Big Z, Z-Bomb, Matt Zenitz has heard something, so hopefully he'll join us here later in the show when we get into intel and discuss that further. But who's got more pressure on them here? Is it Brent Venables to finally continue this run to the playoff after what happened last year? Or is it Texas with them struggling so much, especially in the trenches after losing to Vanderbilt with Steve Sarkisian leading the way?
Well, it's two different types of pressure, right? I think that for Texas, it's do or die pressure. Like if Texas doesn't win out, most likely they don't have a pathway to the college football playoff. Now, how realistic is that? Regardless, you know, you've got 3 top 10 games remaining, including a road game against Georgia. But like for Oklahoma, especially, by the way, if John Mateer doesn't play, this is one that potentially you can just kind of throw out at the end of the year. You kind of just say, well, you know, even if he plays and isn't at his best, right? I think that's not going to be a season-defining game. If Texas loses this game, I think that this is season-defining. I think that this is, this is essentially the end of what Texas has. You know, there was that column obviously at The Athletic that called Arch Manning college football's first flop, which bizarre. Like, no, there's been plenty of others.
He might not even be the first flop this season, Sean.
Right. Like, listen, man, I don't want to put too much on his name because I know he's going through a lot, but like Malachi Nelson's the backup quarterback now at UTEP. We don't have to go through flop NIL era, any of this stuff. Let's not even talk about Jaden Rashada right now at Sac State. Like, but all that to say, the tough thing about college football is that Texas has already clinched their worst season in 3 years, right? Like they have already most likely clinched the worst preseason number 1 since 2012 USC. Like that's already, even just through 5 games, on the table right now. But I do think that if you take care of business in this game, this is one of those games, right, where you can change the narrative of yourself. We've seen it 2 of the past 3 years with the struggles that Brent Venables has. If he wins maybe 1 or 2 of those that they lose big, then I think that the conversations around him are just a little bit different. And I think that Texas is the team kind of reeling right now, needing a moment to come forward. So especially if John Mateer is not 100% and or if he plays, of course, I think that this is a moment that Texas really has no choice but to take advantage of.
Matt, how's John Mateer's hand? And how's our guys
up in the air
as well?
Still up in the air. Have not heard anything definitive whatsoever. I know the injury report had him listed at questionable last night. Injury availability reports sometimes can be BS to a certain degree. That one is legitimate, that even people inside the Oklahoma building truly do not know yet whether he's going to play.
Well, we know that Stephen Shin, well, we can imagine that Stephen Shin will be courtside on Saturday for that game. Absolutely. That's our guy.
I'll try to find him. I'll try to find him.
Absolutely. Oh, Sean, you're going. Good.
I'm
Okay,
going.
good.
I'll be there. Yeah.
That's the interview. That you want to go inside the insiders. That's the interview I want with Dr. Stephen Shin. Excuse me.
Yeah, here's the issue though, is that they've changed it up and they don't allow us on the sidelines anymore pregame or anything, which is like, come on, dude. That's like the best part. You get to walk in, you get to feel it, you get to see the crowd, where you see the crimson and orange next to each other. Like, it's one of the great moments, but now they just shove us up in their old freaking press box in the seats that are nailed into the ground, and that's all you get.
Didn't they just renovate the place?
That's true. They renovated one side of it, I think.
Okay.
I'll give some reviews whenever we get it back. It's definitely if you've ever been out there, it is an old stadium.
Yeah, the Cotton Bowl is really something. I think for Texas up front, obviously, debuted a new left guard against Florida to some disastrous results on Saturday. I think that Oklahoma is going to get after Texas significantly different than Florida did. Oklahoma is going to come with stunts and games and twists and blitzes. And they're going to, one of the things that I think Texas probably should do with Arch is probably run some more quick game, get some slants, get the ball out of his hand quickly, because you're also struggling to run the ball a lot. So sort of replace the run game with some quick passes. And I think there are chances for Oklahoma to bait Arch Manning when they do that. We know that Brent Venables loves to bring pressure, but he also loves to bluff pressure. And if you watched on Monday Night Football, those Jacksonville Jaguars, you saw what happens when you bluff pressure. Devin Lloyd pops out 99 yards the other way, touchdown Jags, just so we're clear. So it can happen. And I think it's something that Texas better guard against. But Arch is not the reason they lost against Florida. And he looked good in the last two times out against obviously two different tier of opponents. But this is a spot, Sean's saying it, like this is a spot where Arch can kind of bow up and say, like, I've had all this adversity around me all season, but he can kind of prove that, the talent and the things that everybody saw from him last year are still in there.
Yeah, last time we saw Oklahoma in a big SEC game, they sacked the quarterback 9 times. It was originally 10, but they took that one off, would have been a record, but 9 times. And, that's got to put some fear into Texas fans' hearts, considering how much their offensive line has struggled. Big spot here for Arch Manning.
Can I say something about Texas real quick? So obviously you guys touched on some of the stuff that's been written about Arch, which my opinion is the same as you guys when it comes to that, and just that being, to put it nicely, over the top in terms of the presentation of the tweet at the very least. But I did have a Texas source say that they feel like that's lit a fire under Arch's, again, I don't know if we can cuss on here or not, a star, and that's not gone unnoticed with him. So that's done nothing but serve as just additional motivation. So it's not like Arch was lacking motivation before, but it also has not gone unnoticed with him.
Launched a fire underneath his Texas star, is what you're saying.
Well, and I do want to say, right, like I do think that the second half of the Florida game, he showed some stuff legitimately, very realistically. He showed some stuff. I think he handled the pressure a lot better. I actually think that in some ways he's been better under pressure than he's been when he's been able to sit back and think in some ways. But my concern is this.
They got to run the ball.
Well, yes, I was going to say, as Arch gets better, it feels like everyone around him is getting worse.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And so it's like the offensive line in week 1 held up okay against a very good Ohio State defense. Well, it's gotten worse. Florida was the worst game. And by the way, Florida was out 2 of their best players on the defensive line. The running game, of course, they've been really injured at running back. CJ Baxter doubtful for this game. Quintravion Wisner wasn't able to create much. Wisner is less of a yards through contact, but I think that ultimately, like, that's what concerns me about this game. Is I just feel like Oklahoma has more spots where they're obviously going to win than Texas in this game.
All right, the big game on CBS this week is number 7 Indiana, number 3 Oregon. It's a big spot for Indiana as we obviously continue to question their scheduling, and Kurt Cignetti's like, whatever, we're just doing that SEC scheduling, baby. But Oregon, of course, number 3. I even had them number 1 in my rankings at one point, but that big win at Penn State, still impressive, but has diminished a little bit, of course, with Penn State losing last week at UCLA. But a big spot here for them to get another top 10 win. at home against an Indiana team that's just high flying. They're number 1 or number 2 in so many statistical categories on offense. And Oregon, of course, looking to just continue their undefeated streak in the Big Ten. They have yet to lose a Big Ten game since joining the conference, guys. This is a huge one. Does Indiana have a shot here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Indiana is really talented and they're playing really good football. And I think off a bye with a lot of time to plan, I think they can spring some stuff. My opinion of this game is just because I thought Oregon was one of the best teams in the country coming into the season. I thought they were underrated at number 7 in the AP poll to start the preseason, and I think they are getting close to being adequately rated. But right now, I think this game is just going to be more about Oregon's class. I think Oregon is a really, really good football team. I think Oregon is a football team with few, if any, holes up and down that roster. And if you give Dan Lanning a chance this is one of the things I love about that Oregon team. If you give Dan Lanning a chance with a 4th down, for instance, or a 2-point conversion, for instance, like Dan Lanning is really good at finding edgewise advantages, using analytics, using ways to steal points and steal hidden yards and win games in ways that you might not expect. I think that's one of the greatest things about him. And I think that's why Kurt Cignetti called him a coaching phenom during the midweek.
Yeah, he's incredible. And look, Indiana, I think for them, if you can clamp down one of their 2 top receivers, Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt, Oregon's going to beat them because they're just so much more powerful across a lot of other spots. But if you slow one of them 2 down, Oregon's going to be a very good spot in this game. That's just kind of what I just simplify it down to that in my eyes, because those guys are so big and physical. Dan Lanning even said it earlier this week. Like, if they're not catching the ball, they're drawing pass interference calls because they're attacking the ball so well when it's up in the air that your cornerbacks and safeties have no other choice but to get all over them. And Indiana's got to be a little bit more physical, I think, up front along that offensive line and protecting Mendoza a little bit, because I think Oregon's going to go right after him, put a lot of pressure in his face, try to freak him out a little bit, because Indiana has done very well protecting him, but again, under lesser competition. Something to watch there.
And I do think, just to close this out, like, this is going to be a big game for Roman Hemby. I think the Indiana running back. He was a big time addition for them from Maryland, somebody who's rushed for a lot of yards in the Big Ten. And they've used him as part of a rotation, but they haven't needed to use him as a bell cow to this point. This is maybe the game where you start to see it. Oregon has been good, not great, defending against the run this year relative to how good they've been against the pass. If you can be a balanced offense, I think that does create some opportunities for you.
All right, we got Florida, fresh off its upset win against Texas at home in the Swamp, going to College Station in Aggieland to face number 5 Texas A&M. The Aggies undefeated, of course, highlighted by a big win there at Notre Dame just a few weeks ago. And this is an A&M program that it's always been like, yeah, they get off the hot starts and they always just fold down the stretch, late October into November. It didn't matter what the coach was. Kevin Sumlin, Jimbo Fisher, and even Mike Elko last year in his first season there. This A&M team certainly seems like it's built different. So, one, can A&M kind of break the trend of recent years and continue this winning streak in their winning ways? And number 2, can Billy Napier buy himself another week or 2 by beating another nationally ranked team in Texas A&M?
I think the key is going to be whether Florida can force Marcel Reed to be a little bit inaccurate, whether you get that version of Marcel Reed, not exactly the absolute supernova that you see, for instance, against Notre Dame from him. I mean, he's got all the talent, arm talent of the world, can really move around. I think the one thing that you can say throughout at the end of last year, and obviously you saw it on Saturday in the Texas game, Florida, those players play for Billy Napier. Like, they care. They care about their coach and they play together, and they haven't folded. At least they haven't folded yet. And I think with a team that has had a good defense and has finally gotten the offense just something of a pulse from the offense, freshman Dallas Wilson was huge for them, obviously, on Saturday against Texas. If they're kind of rounding into form at the right time, okay. A&M struggled with Auburn. It's not like A&M scored 40 points against Auburn. So Florida has come up against good, or excuse me, A&M has come up against good defenses over the last couple of weeks, and they haven't exactly blown the doors off. So yeah, I think this is a defensive struggle. It ends up being a pretty close game, but I do think A&M is better than Texas.
Yeah, and I think that the emergence of some guys at running back, Ruben Owens kind of coming out, I think that does change the dynamic a little bit. Le'Veon Moss has been dealing with injuries for a lot of this year. If Owens is ready, I think, again, it's a much more balanced unit. The other thing, too, is that I'm fascinated to see how this A&M defensive backfield deals with these true freshman receivers. We saw Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown give Texas the absolute blues last week, right? And I think that this is going to be an opportunity for them to do the same. Secondary has not been A&M's strongest position group through the first couple weeks of the year, but they do have experience back there, even if it's not elite level talent. Somebody like Des Ricks, for example, I think has played good, not great. We need to see great out of him in this game. But of course, this Texas A&M program, frankly, over the last 7 or 8 years has been defined by defensive line play. Cassius Howell is going to be huge in this game. You have to make DJ Lagway uncomfortable, because we saw in that game against LSU, right? When you can get him uncomfortable and when you can get him off of his base, good things happen for your defense.
Number 10, Georgia goes to Auburn on the Plains to renew the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Georgia's won 7 straight in this series. Auburn hasn't beaten them since 2017 when the Tigers advanced to the SEC championship game and then lost to Georgia in a rematch. And they have really struggled against Georgia. But whenever it's at Jordan Hare, I said Jordan that time, said Jordan Hudson. But whenever it's in Auburn on the Plains, weird things happen. It could be a little bit tighter. We've seen that here in recent years, including even the Brian Harsin years there at Auburn. How does Georgia react here going on the road? Of course, just a couple of weeks ago, they lost to Alabama. Of course, everything's still out in front of them. But you're facing an Auburn program where there is now starting to be some talk about Hugh Freeze's future. Their offense can't do very much. They've got an incredible receiving core, but they can't throw the ball all that well. Jackson Arnold holds on to the ball too much and results in several sacks when they don't need to be taking them. This is a fascinating situation because I covered Auburn before. Everybody knows that. But Auburn's schedule every odd year is set up for them to have a quote-unquote big year because they get Alabama and Georgia both at home. That's this year. This is the year things were supposed to go up for Auburn in the third year of Hugh Freeze. And this is a big moment for him in his tenure in deciding whether maybe he ends up being there for a 4th season.
Well, and I'm going to steal a line from Richard that he usually uses for Mike Gundy. The thing about Georgia Auburn is that sometimes Georgia wins by a little and sometimes Georgia wins by a lot, but you never know what's going to happen. And that's kind of what it's been since Kirby Smart has taken over there, right? The last win was, I believe it was Kirby's 2nd season. And other than that, he has essentially blanked them. And when I look at this matchup, like this Georgia team, to quote Chris Hummer, I guess I'm just quoting everybody, a little mid, especially in the passing game. But like the question becomes, does Auburn have the quarterback play to be able to get the receivers the ball and create real opportunities? We saw, like you mentioned, against Oklahoma, they were sacked 9 times. This feels like a get-right game for that Georgia defensive line that hasn't done a whole lot this year. And the other direction, again, like Auburn has been really good against the run, but they've also had some of their issues in the middle of the field defending the pass. I think that somebody like Zachariah Branch maybe has an explosive play or two that really flips this game on its head. So I just don't know the matchup unless they can protect Jackson Arnold at a high level that I really like Auburn in this game. I think that Georgia just has a chance to be better at almost every position group outside of receiver.
Just what we need in our lives this November, an Auburn coaching search. Whew. Good Lord.
Do they ever stop? I just feel like you're constantly, I feel like the search firms are ready for the moment that it happens.
Yeah, that's where like the search firm executives are in their boardrooms and they're getting their pregame speeches.
They're just on retainer.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's never quiet on the Plains. I've known that forever. Okay, we're going to get into some intel, some injury reports, see what we got out there as we scour the nation here on the College Football Insiders right after this.
Only CBS Sports can bring you big time during the heart of Saturday afternoons. It's big time.
It's big time. It's big time. It's big time.
on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Okay, let's get around to some intel if we got any intel. I don't know. I don't know if we do. We did talk about Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer. His status still up in the air on the official injury report that was released by the SEC Wednesday, listed as questionable after undergoing that hand surgery a couple of weeks ago. We'll find out more as we get closer to the game. Maybe we won't even know until Saturday when they get out there on the field, Saturday afternoon. Matt, what are you hearing out there on the ground when you put your ear against the dirt?
I mean, one of the other things worth making note of with the Oklahoma-Texas game, I know everyone's focused on John Mateer, but from a Texas standpoint, something that will provide a lift for them is getting Malik Muhammad back at cornerback as long as things continue to trend like they're currently trending. So one of their better players defensively missed last week's game against Florida and have continued to hear throughout the course of the last couple of days, or really throughout the course of the week as a whole, that it's trending in the direction of him being available against Oklahoma. And if I remember correctly, he was even listed as probable on injury report last night. So that will be a boost for them heading into this matchup against Oklahoma, regardless of who Oklahoma has at quarterback.
Yeah, Oklahoma State, we were talking about it during the midweek. Zane Flores is now doubtful on the first injury report. Sean, Oklahoma State may be starting a wide receiver at quarterback?
Man, Sam Jackson is a name that, Sam Jackson.
Sam Jackson the fifth?
He hit, I guess, those Auburn Tigers too, right? So I remember when Sam Jackson
and everywhere else
was recruited as a quarterback at TCU in like 2019, and they were pretty excited about him. He was, I think, 1 year or 2 years maybe after Max Duggan, so they felt like he was part of the succession plan. Well, transfers, ends up shifting to wide receiver, stops at Auburn, stops at Cal, ends up at Oklahoma State. And in the literal sense, Oklahoma State does not have more quarterbacks. The only guy that they had on campus behind Haas Haney and Zane Flores, by the way, is how you say his last name, which is a little weird, but Zane Flores, they have two true freshmen who have essentially never played. And so now they're moving Jackson back to quarterback in an emergency type move. You know, it'll be interesting to kind of see, does he get the true start? Do they end up going with one of the freshmen and having him in there as a backup? They also, they had a kid from North Alabama who didn't play football in 2024, who came from UCF and joined the program in September. So like, there's no telling what they're going to do for sure. They have like 5 different options. All of them are bad, but like just the kind of season it is. And also, by the way, I have an idea. Let me throw this by you guys. Okay.
They're giving Mike Gundy a lot of money though, right? For firing him.
Sure.
Let him earn that money. Bring him back on the field. Let him be quarterback once again. Let's run it back, Mike.
Well, and I will say this. They also lost Josh Ford, their tight end, to the transfer portal. Obviously, a portal opens up after a coach is let go. He was their only returning offensive starter. So now they have 0 players on campus who started a football game in 2024.
Look at these passing numbers. That is disgusting. What is this, Iowa? What are we doing?
Hey, Haas Haney looked great in his limited time before he broke his foot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no one else has looked great.
Also in the Big 12, Daniel Highshaw for Kansas. Running back is doubtful as well against Texas Tech. That's a Texas Tech team that is rolling right now, and you don't need any of your playmakers to be sitting out in that game. That is not so good for Kansas at all.
Yeah, I will at least say, one small bright spot. I don't think there's going to be many in this game for Kansas. Texas Tech has a couple defenders who right now are questionable, including Jacob Rodriguez, who to me might be the best inside linebacker in the country right now. I don't think it's going to make a difference.
They're optimistic that he's going to play.
Okay, and that makes sense too. I mean, he's a Warrior All-America contender, somebody who I even had conversations about All-America for on a defense that was bottom 5 in the country last year. So it's been cool to see him have a chance to finally break out.
Any injury things we need to keep an eye on, Matt, for Alabama and Mizzou?
Yeah, nothing overly noteworthy that comes to mind.
Ryan Williams was listed as probable last night.
Ryan Williams is playing. Yeah.
Great.
You can tell you that if that's anything groundbreaking. Ryan Williams is fully expected to
It's breaking. It's good news. It's good to report what we know.
Yeah. I thought we broke him on this show after the Florida State game. Man, we were going after his ass.
Well, maybe maybe if he's healthy now, he can race Matt. They can go mano a mano now.
That's
now
right.
that he's ready to go.
I
Well,
forgot
you'll
it.
appreciate this. So this is a sign of my old age. So today's Thursday. Going back to Tuesday, had workout where it was lower body workout and went heavy on squat. And then later in the day, we set up a bounce house for the kids. And the kids, for whatever reason, wanted me to throw them up the slide. So was throwing the combination of the 6-year-old and 3-year-old up the slide, probably in excess of 20 or 30 times. And me being in the advanced stage of life that I'm currently in, what that led to, and I think it was probably a combination of squatting, the lower body workout, and then doing that for the last now 2 days, my lower back has been a pain in the A star. So
So we got Matt Zenitz.
Way of saying I'm in no condition to be racing Ryan Williams, Richard Johnson, Brandon Shahan, John Talty, Trey Scott, anybody at this point.
Well, sources are telling the College Football Insiders on our availability report, Matt Zenitz is listed at questionable. I think personally he can gut it out on Saturday. The man loves to work the phones, but at the end of the day, you got to see game time decision. We'll check in Saturday morning.
Yeah, those fingers aren't connected to your back.
So, Richard, have you noticed during the end of our show on Tuesday, because I guess it had started to flare up at that point, there were 2 times towards the end of that show that I turned the camera off for like 1 minute and then was back on. It was to get up and walk around because my lower back had tightened up. That was the reason for it.
Wow.
We got to get him in the injury tent. The trainers, we got to have our guy good to go here for Saturday.
Are you not stretching before and after workouts, man? You got to stretch. Stretching is as important as the workout itself. You got to stretch. Are you stretching, Matt?
I am. Have 10 to 15 minute stretch and warm-up session before any workout, whether it's lower body, upper body. I'm just old and over the hill. This stuff happens.
Right. We don't need the Z-bomb to be a dud this week, so you need to get healthy, man.
The Z-bomb is at a bomb go off in his lower back. So,
okay. Well, now it's time for Inside the Insiders, and I think we've been inside Matt Zenitz's back enough. So I'd ask what he's been working on. We know what he's working on today. That's breaking news across the NFL and across college football. So let's move on to Shahan. What were you working on this week? What are you working on that you're excited about?
Yeah, I've got a story I'm very excited about. I don't want to reveal it quite as yet because I hear that there might be more than one person working on a similar story, so I'm trying to get out ahead of it. But let's just say it is a rising star in college football that I managed to go very deep into kind of his background. And
Bill Belichick.
Lord no. But I'm very excited about it. Keep an eye out next Tuesday. I've got that coming up. But this weekend, I get to do the doubleheader on Friday. I'm seeing the biggest game of the weekend, maybe the only true playoff game of the weekend. North Texas hosting South Florida. It's going to be a huge game. It's the first sellout in the history of North Texas Stadium. And it's on a Friday, by the way, in Denton, Texas, where they take their high school football very seriously.
Is this
really
a problem,
excited
Sean? Is this a problem attendance-wise? Seriously? I'm serious.
That there's high school?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Texas is very serious about this stuff. And Denton County specifically, where North Texas is like a crazy good high school football area. Denton Ryan, Denton Guy, I've talked about Jackson Arnold being from there, Eli Stowers, Jatavian Sanders, all these great players have played and come through that area. And even if you go below the 6A level, like Argyle High School's there, there are so many good high school programs. And yes, 100%, you as a college program are dealing with that. And that, in different ways, like TCU as a big time program deals with that. And that's one reason that they really push to not have weekday games at Big 12 Texas schools, is because absolutely you're fighting against some of this stuff. SMU's dealt with that, of course, forever, with Highland Park being a huge draw in terms of high school football. So yeah, it's a big deal that they managed to sell out the stadium. It's a huge deal that they managed to do it on Friday night. It's going to be a really, really fun, exciting game. I'm a little worried about how UNT's trenches are going to hold up against South Florida. That's a very difficult matchup, but
yeah, we'll get into that here in the preview. That's my big thing too.
Yeah. But, for people who didn't get a chance to read my piece a little while back, North Texas has a quarterback, Drew Mestemaker, who's a crazy story. Former walk-on, didn't start a single varsity game in high school. His last time as the full-time starting quarterback was on the 9th grade B team at Austin Vandergrift High School in Austin, Texas. So, it is a crazy story. The kid ahead of him, Deuce Adams, went on to play at Louisville, so that he just happened to get caught behind a guy. But he has been electric to this point. If you haven't checked out the story on Drew Mestemaker, make sure to check that out at cbssports.com.
My Inside the Insiders got waylaid by Bill Belichick Day yesterday, but still cooking on an Indiana story and a special donation to Indiana football that came in the wake of their playoff loss of all things last year against Notre Dame. I think that it's sort of trying to kind of get in the mix of what's happened between that playoff loss and here. A lot of schools have a blip, right? How many schools can you name that had a great year? I mean, Shahan, North Texas went 9-3 one year. You know what I mean? Schools have blips. How do you take a blip and make it something with staying power? That's the challenge for Indiana. So far, Indiana's held true on some of the things that they needed to do. But their athletic director, Scott Dolson, told me this week that coming off the field in South Bend, him and Sig were starting to talk about the few things that they needed to do to maintain this thing. And it clearly has maintained. We'll see how it holds up on Saturday against the Ducks.
The last week and a half, I've been working alongside John Talty on a piece about Bobby Petrino, Arkansas, and the temporary headline I've got in the system right now is the Ballad of Bobby Petrino, from infamy to interim and hope for Razorback redemption. So he's got 7 games to prove himself. So we went back in the past and talked to people in his past, including what happened there at Arkansas back in early 2012, after their most successful season they had since the 70s, when they went 11-2. And of course, Bobby Petrino was in a motorcycle accident. And then later, more information came to light that he was also having an affair with a subordinate and lied about it. And then, of course, they fired him. But in my reporting, I was able to find that the neck brace still exists. It's still out there, as well as the hat, the Sugar Bowl hat he wore at that infamous press conference. You remember it. His face was all beaten up and scabbed over. Well, someone in Fayetteville has it. I'm not going to reveal here who it is. It's in the story that's publishing Friday, but it's purely Arkansas who owns this thing and who got it. And I can just only say that because Arkansas fans, they're crazy, they're wild, and that's what makes them so special. So, yeah, look out for that story, talking about just the mystique that was Petrino in this state, how that all changed when he left, and how the state really hasn't been the same since with the football program. And now they're in this weird deja vu situation. Some people like it, some people don't, that Petrino's leading their program. And now he's got an opportunity that if he wins enough games, maybe he will be considered and maybe be bumped up to head coach full-time after this season. So keep an eye out for that. At CBS.
That is legitimate, by the way. I know he's interim right now, and in most cases, the interim does not end up getting the job on a permanent basis. There are people around the industry that do believe that if, and I'm emphasizing that, if he can win enough, he has a legitimate chance to end up getting this job on a permanent basis. But has Tennessee this week, has A&M, has Auburn coming up, needs to win these games to have a real shot at this. But if he can find a way to, I don't know if it's going 500 the rest of the way or just what the win total needs to be, but this is not just a deal where Bobby's the interim right now and has zero chance of getting this job permanently.
I believe he's at least got to go 4-3, get to a bowl game to be considered among that group. But
I was also told today that the magic number is also 4. I was also told that it's 4. And to have a conversation, it's 4.
And they're already
some people behind the scenes that are very much supportive of Bobby Petrino, as you guys know.
There are some boosters who are supporting him. Some big, but mostly mid-tier supporters at Arkansas. We'll see what happens there. He's got to win.
And I can promise you this: the second that Brandon put that story into the system, I did open it up and read it. So there's a lot in there, man. There's a lot in there.
You're also ruining my plan, Shahan, to go in tonight in the back end system and get the sneak preview as well.
You got to get in there. The reveal of who has it is very funny.
That's the thing I've been waiting for 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks.
Man.
We've been texting back and forth
all along. That's who it was. It was John Talty. I just gave it away. Who had this? But in all seriousness, if he finds a way to beat either Tennessee or A&M, or especially if he finds a way to beat both, but if he finds a way to win one of those 2 games, things do start to get truly interesting in terms of him as a possibility for that job.
Yeah, Arkansas through intermediaries is already talking to some assistants out there. Like periphery candidates, I would say, from the sources I've spoken to, including a couple of offensive coordinators, one in the SEC. Okay. All right. You got anything else you want to add, Matt, inside the Insiders besides your back and your leg day?
Just due for another round of ibuprofen at some point soon.
Oh, and I guess I guess I spent
ibuprofen Tylenol.
I guess I spent the whole time talking about North Texas. I guess I will be at Red River as well. That's also going to be a very fun, exciting. Yeah. You know, there will be at least one game with playoff implications, and also Red River.
And Red River.
You do know that if John Mateer plays and Oklahoma wins, this will be known forever as the Stephen Shin game.
Oh, 100%. We're gonna have to. Obviously somebody owns Bobby Petrino's neck brace. We're gonna have to have John Mateer's splint. Like somebody's gonna own that and get that.
Yeah,
side. It's gonna be crazy.
Well, when they honor Dr. Shin, he needs to wear his scrubs. That would be great. All right, quick picks time. We got a lot of games to go through here as we go through these very quickly. We will start with the Friday night game that Shahan will be at number 24, South Florida at North Texas. Let's start with you, Shahan.
Yeah, I really am excited about this game. I think that North Texas has a lot going offensively. I do think they're going to struggle with South Florida's defensive line play. So give me South Florida in a game with a couple ugly moments.
I'm taking USF. I think that USF has a size and a team speed advantage specifically that I think North Texas can't come with. I really like Drew Mestemaker, but I think they're just going to be outmatched.
Say South Florida, but this is a game where you have 2 head coaches who put themselves firmly on the radar for Power 4 opportunities. Not only Alex Golish at South Florida, but Eric, based on the job that he's doing at North Texas, to go along with that.
Yeah, I've got South Florida too. They can run the dang ball, man. And that gives me some heebie-jeebies about North Texas being able to mount this win even at home in front of that sellout crowd. Number 1 Ohio State against number 17 Illinois. A very sneaky good game here. Can Brett Bielema beat another big-time Big Ten program like he did last year against Michigan?
I'm scared after watching Illinois play against Indiana. I think that this Ohio State defense is even better than them. So I think that they run away with this one.
Buckeyes, big. I think Illinois is going to try to play a lot of physical man defense. Don't think it's going to go too well.
Taking Ohio State, Julian Sam playing at a high level, just seeing him getting better and better as the year goes on, and bodes well for Ohio State moving forward. And everyone focuses on Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver. There are some other talented pieces like Carnell Tate to go along with that need to be getting more attention than what they're currently getting.
Yeah, I'm going Ohio State big. Julian Sain leads the country in completion percentage. He's not getting talked about enough, but they're going to smother Illinois. Number 8, Alabama at number 14, Mizzou. Early game, noon.
We kind of alluded to it in the earlier section. It's really going to come down to whether Missouri's pass rush can get home quick enough. I think the answer is going to be no, unfortunately, and I think that those receivers are going to have a really good day.
Tide rolls. I just think they're too good.
Hey, Alabama playing good ball defensively. We've talked a lot about Ty Simpson, his improvement since the first game of the year, and just frankly playing at a really high level ever since that game. But it's worth making note also that Kane Womag's defense doing some really good things to go along with what Ty and that Alabama offense are doing. In the second half of the game against Vanderbilt, held them scoreless, pitched a shutout during the final 2 quarters, was the continuation of just an Alabama defense that is playing like expected them to play heading into the year, taking Alabama in this game.
I'm taking Alabama as well. Can Missouri slow down and keep them in check at receiver, Ryan Williams and co? That's a big question. Of course, Alabama, can you keep Ahmad Hardy from going crazy, going for over 150 yards? I think in the end, Ahmad Hardy gets his, but Alabama is going to be able to get a lot more through the air with Ty Simpson, Ryan Williams and co. Alabama wins that one. Number 6, Oklahoma against Texas. They're in the Cotton Bowl.
Huge story is going to be whether John Mateer plays. If he does, I don't think this is a game. If he doesn't, I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. But I think that Oklahoma, with the way that they're playing defensively right now, is just going to be able to give that Texas offensive line a lot of issues. Give me the Sooners.
It's hard because you don't know if Mateer is going to play. And it just makes it just completely materially different whether he does or doesn't.
Materially.
I agree with Shahan. I think that with Mateer, OU gets it done. I think close either way. With Mateer, they get it done. Without Mateer, Arch rises up and shows up in a big moment.
Just based on some of the stuff that I've heard about Arch, feel like at some point we're going to see him take a step forward. Maybe it's this week, and especially with the uncertainty at quarterback for Oklahoma. We'll say Texas for right now, even though this is legitimately a game that they could see going either way. If John Mateer is in there, feel more confident saying Texas, obviously, far from groundbreaking if Michael Hawkins is playing. But Texas is also just a better team as a whole than what you saw last week against Florida, and that includes at the quarterback position with Arch.
I'm more confident in Oklahoma's O-line than I am Texas's O-line, obviously. I do have questions about Arch Manning. As a quarterback still, I know he's been getting a lot of criticism, including from me this past Sunday. I was still criticizing him. I do think he still holds on to the ball a little bit too long. I know his offensive line is just absolutely terrible after replacing 4 guys, and they're just not gelling. But I'm going to go ahead and take OU, Mateer or not, even with Michael Hawkins there at quarterback. I think either way, guys, I think this game is going to be low scoring no matter what. I think it's going to be in the 20s. And as you know, Shahan, them flipping sides of the field after halftime and the different types of momentum there in the Cotton Bowl, this one could get weird, but I'm going to stick with OU and OU winning this one. Let's see here. Number 7, Indiana at number 3, Oregon. We talked about this earlier in the pressure index. Who we got?
Yeah, I think that Oregon just has so many ways to beat teams right now. They're running the ball at an incredibly high level. Fernando Mendoza looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Or, Dante Moore, rather. No, Fernando Mendoza also as well. But I think that Oregon is just too fast and too physical against this Indiana team. It's going to be closer than most expect, but give me Oregon to win. I think they might be the best team in the country right now.
Oregon wins, Indiana covers.
Two teams that are good enough to make the playoff, but taking Oregon in this game. And you do have 2 quarterbacks, as Shahan was talking about, that are emerging as 2 of the better quarterbacks in the country.
I think Oregon crosses the Mendoza line, and they cover the spread, and they win by double digits. I think they win by 10. I really like this Oregon team. Arkansas at number 12, Tennessee. The Bobby Petrino era begins again.
Tennessee by 1 billion. I think they're going to absolutely obliterate them. Bobby's going to come out with some stuff. Arkansas is not going to execute it, and then they're going to fall apart.
Yeah, there'll be some earlier razzle-dazzle. Arkansas is also really banged up, but I think there's going to be some early razzle-dazzle from Arkansas, and yes, Tennessee then pulls away late. Boat race.
I agree with that assessment.
No,
I know a great summary right there, but I think that was summed up well. So we'll second or third that.
I have no confidence in Arkansas's defense. I do think Arkansas is going to be able to score a little bit. Tennessee wins, but Arkansas somehow covers the 12.5 points spread. But it won't really all be all that close.
Wait, one quick follow-up. One thing that does make Arkansas a wild card is just Taylon Green, who it is better than what he's looked like at different points through the early part of the year. And if you can get Talon playing at the level that he's truly capable of, with Bobby now running the show beyond just being his OC, it does make Arkansas even more a team that on a given week could surprise, frankly, anybody, because Talon is talented enough that people in the NFL world going into the year felt like he had a chance to be somebody who could end up going in the first few rounds.
I think I saw a fact this week that the last 2 seasons for Arkansas, every game on the road for them's been either a win or a 1-possession loss, no matter the level of competition. But even with those losses against Ole Miss and Memphis being 1 possession, it's just that defense is so leaky. I don't know how you defend Tennessee in that environment. I just don't know. Okay, UAB at FAU. The reason why I've got this one on here is because Trent Dilfer's on the hot seat, and FAU under a first-year coach, Zach Kitley. They've been off and on this year. UAB going on the road after losing big to Army. Blazers need to get back to the win column.
I don't know if there's any team in the country that I'd pick UAB to go on the road and beat. And FAU is a team that's in the country, so I'm picking FAU.
Even though they're Atlantic?
They're not in the Atlantic. They're not international waters.
Okay.
I actually like that. They are in the country.
Yeah, they are the country. I'm taking FAU.
Taking the FAU also. So Zach Kitley was our American head coach of the week at CBS Sports this past week, and taking the FAU to follow up last week's result with another win this week.
Did anybody see Trent Dilfer's video at the press conference where he was drawing a
dot? Yeah.
What do you guys see?
My problem with that is that dot a little small. You gotta color that whole paper black. It's yeah.
Trent Dilfer is a quote machine. I've quoted him in stories in the past before he was a coach. That's great and all. Dude can't win. FAU. FAU easy. All right. Another hot seat one. ULM at Coastal Carolina. Tim Beck at Coastal Carolina. Bryant Vince at ULM, the former coach at UAB, by the way, who did much better than Trent Dilfer. What we got?
This one's tough. I mean, Coastal has been playing so terribly. They've lost 3 of their 4 games by 38 plus points against FBS competition. And then they also beat South Alabama for some reason. So, like, I think that, ULM has had a little bit of a tough go of it. I think this game ends up being kind of close. Coastal gets a very narrow victory.
Monroe.
So Tim Beck is, I think, quietly on the hot seat right now.
Loudly now.
Maybe quietly, right, wrong word, but needs to win to avoid being in danger there, and he's been one that just has continued to come up the last couple of weeks as someone to monitor. Brian Vincent doing a good job at ULM. So I'll take ULM just based on the fact things are not going well at Coastal right now, regardless of the result a couple of weeks ago where we're able to get a surprising win. Yeah. Combined with the fact that, again, ULM doing some good things under Brian Vincent.
I wish that we could give them back Ahmad Hardy for this game. That would help a whole lot.
Yeah. He was fun to watch there, too. Brian Vincent this time last year was my coach of the year nationally. What he did there early last season, remarkable considering the facilities there, everything they had. They went out and got Ahmad Hardy when they were the only FBS school to offer the guy a scholarship. Brian Vincent's just an amazing coach, so underrated. Should have kept his UAB job. I don't know, whatever. Bad decision.
We can have more conversation about that. I assure you.
I could do a whole show on that whole situation, but obviously no one really cares. I'm gonna go with Coastal Carolina though here. I think Tim Beck gets a stay of execution. All right, Florida at number 5, Texas A&M. This is big for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, this one's such an interesting game. Obviously, there's been so many rumors linking DJ Lagway with Texas A&M over the years. He's from that area. This receiving core looks so good. But I think that Texas A&M has just figured something out really on both sides of the ball. I think that they're able to get home their pass rushes, and I think that their receivers are ultimately the star of the show in this game. So give me Texas A&M. They're very good at home.
Yeah, I think A&M wins, but Florida does cover. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think Florida comes to play again in this game, particularly DJ Lagway. He's got a point to prove.
So when it comes to coaches and hot seat situations, you guys may find this ridiculous with me, but part of the way to view this from my perspective is like, did you guys play Mortal Kombat at all back in the day?
Duh.
So obviously you had like the life bar, and anytime that you got hit, you took hits to the life bar.
But did you play it in blood mode or no blood mode? That's what I want to know, Big Z.
It's been so long, I don't even know what you're referencing. So that shows lack of memory or my memory diminishing in old age. But with Billy Napier coming off 1-3, including loss to South Florida, the Mortal Kombat life bar for Billy was not at a great point, obviously, but got a boost with the win over Texas. If he can find a way to beat A&M, that obviously would not only provide another boost to that Mortal Kombat life bar, but would obviously cool things down even more for the moment in Gainesville. And even though this is a game on the road at A&M, extremely difficult place to play, Florida was impressive enough from my standpoint last week, including DJ Lagway taking a clear step forward and playing like we all expected DJ Lagway to play heading into the year, that I will take Florida in this game. Again, even with it being on the road at A&M, although it would be more comfortable or even more confident if it was in Gainesville.
Listening to Matt describe Mortal Kombat makes me realize he's so old.
I was about to say Tekken, but I wasn't sure.
Tekken, I got you. I wasn't a Mortal Kombat guy, but Tekken I remember.
I used to like Tekken, but that was the initial one that came to mind. But I felt like more people listening to the show or watching it, we would have history with Mortal Kombat compared to Tekken. Maybe that was a wrong thing to assume on.
No, it's not that. It's just the way you describe it. You're like the life bar, and it goes down.
Yeah, there's a lot of games that have that. We could have just gotten to the point.
Yeah, most importantly, are you going to use that when talking about coaching hot seats moving forward? Anybody on here?
No. But here's a friendship to you, Matt Zenitz. I'm going to go with Texas A&M winning this game, but Florida covering. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be in the 20s. This is the type of game where Florida does win. It's when a superstar arises, and Dallas Wilson is eking to that point after finally debuting last week. So watch out. We'll see. Number 15, Michigan at USC. This game is damn good. I love the matchups on this one.
Yeah, I don't have a good feel of this game at all, to be honest, because I think that, obviously Michigan's running the ball at a really high level. I think have gotten great stuff from Bryce Underwood, and I don't know that USC's defense is going to shut them down. But, I mean, you look at USC's offense right now, they are rolling in the passing game. Jaden Mayava has been rated one of the best quarterbacks in the country to this point. I tend to lean USC, I think, but I don't feel good about it at all.
I think Michigan drags this game to hell, and USC's not able to hang. I think Michigan takes this USC team into deep water, and they ain't got it like they think they do. Wolverines.
So Michigan's on the road, have to go to USC, but I'll say this. We was talking to an NFL assistant general manager within the last week, and we were talking about just some of the biggest draft risers through the early part of the year. And one of the few names that he brought up was Justice Haynes at Michigan, who has been just a tremendous addition for them as a compliment to Bryce Underwood and what he's doing at the quarterback position. To go along with that, USC did lose to the same Illinois team that got blown out by Indiana a couple weeks ago. So the combination of those things, the pieces around Bryce Underwood, the fact USC coming off a loss to Illinois lead to me saying Michigan in this game, even with it being on the road for them at USC.
I don't trust Sharon Moore in this game. I just don't. I don't know why.
Can we get Biff back for this one?
I just don't. I think USC wins this one, and they kind of get back on the map a little bit, and I think they're going to be able to go on a run here. I just don't feel good at all about Michigan in this spot. That's just my gut.
What about if Sharon cuts off his sleeves to look like Biff?
Hey,
that'll
we'll have to reconsider. We'll have to reconsider. I could put those next to Bobby Petrino's neck brace. Put them on display. Number 10, Georgia at Auburn, the Deep South's oldest rivalry.
Yeah, I just think that Georgia is going to physically beat them up after a while. I think that Auburn's going to try to make some stuff happen. I think they're going to run the quarterback. I would not be surprised if Jackson Arnold goes out in this game. And I just, if I felt any level of confidence that Auburn was going to have a drop back passing game, I would be intrigued, but I have no faith in that right now.
Yeah, I just don't really trust Jackson Arnold to beat a Georgia defense.
Georgia does have quite question marks along the offensive line, specifically at the tackle positions. Monroe Freeling, a question mark heading into this game to go along with Ernest Green, who's been out. Even with that being said, even if those guys are out, I do think Georgia, they're the better team and taking Georgia in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to take Georgia. This will be a tight game just because it usually is there. But Georgia wins this one, and more questions about Hugh Freeze start to pop up there on the Plains with that offense just struggling so much. All right, our final game, number 21 Arizona State at Utah. Arizona State, of course, won the Big 12 last year, got to the college football playoff. Utah, they lost early against Texas Tech, but, man, they're still pretty darn good and something to kind of watch here as we go through the Big 12. This is a huge game for Arizona State staying alive in the Big 12 race.
This is a big game for both of these teams staying alive in the Big 12 race. I think the winner of this game becomes maybe the co-favorite to go to Arlington alongside Texas Tech, and I think the loser is going to have a really tough time fighting their way back. The reason I'm going to pick Utah is I think that they physically right now can hang with anybody except for Texas Tech. And with Arizona State, they've played a lot of close games. I don't think that they've had receivers step up around Jordan Tyson to this point. And I think that they're gettable in the trenches if you have a unit like Utah brings to the table. So need to see more from Devin Dampier, the passer, but I think that physically at home, they're going to get it done. And by the way, crazy stat, Utah has not won a home conference game since joining the Big 12. They're 0-5 in home conference games. I think that Rice-Eccles Stadium is going to know that, and I think that they are going to be up and ready for this one.
I think Arizona State game scripts Utah out of this game. I think Arizona State gets out to a lead, and Devin Dampier and Utah have to pass their way back into the proceedings, and I don't like that from Devin Dampier.
Tempted to say Utah, just with them being at home, and Utah still a good, at the very least, above average team. But at the same time, Arizona State has pieces like Sam Leavitt, Jordan Tyson that lead to me going with Arizona State in this matchup. And it's worth noting with Jordan Tyson, Jordan may not be talked about to the same level as some other receivers on a national level, but continues to do a hell of a job, emerging more and more as a top NFL draft prospect, and has 7 touchdowns at this point through the first 5 games for Arizona State.
Yeah, I trust Kenny Dillingham on the road as a coach. You've seen him kind of come through in tight games before, and he continues to do it this season, other than the Mississippi State game where they got a touchdown pass in the final 30 seconds. But credit to Arizona State rallying in the second half of that game to take a lead. I like Sam Leavitt in this type of position here on the road. I've got Arizona State winning this game and being the big challenger against Texas Tech, potentially there in Arlington. The Big 12 championship. Okay, guys, that was a good show. We will be back Sunday here on the College Football Insiders, recapping all the big games from Saturday, Friday, and even Thursday. We even had a game Wednesday, guys. We'll discuss everything there, and hopefully for a second week in a row, we can make it through a show without someone getting fired after we get off the air. That would be big for us, but we'll be back live on YouTube Sunday morning to discuss everything that happened. I am Brandon Marcello, Shahan Jayaraja, Richard Johnson, Matt Zenitz. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe to the College Football Insiders here on YouTube. And if you're listening on other podcast format, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. We will see you down the road.